All right, we are live.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We are picking up continued work on H686, an act relating to expanding identification of certain lobbying advertisements. And we are going to walk through some new language based on witness testimony from previous days. And then we have one witness to hear from after Mr. Devlin runs us through the words. Mr. Devlin.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for having me, committee members. For the record, my name is Tim Devlin, Legislative Counsel. You have before you draft 1.1 of a committee amendment coming from this committee to amend House Bill number 686, an act relating to expanding identification of certain lobbying advertisements. There are two changes. All the updated text has been highlighted for reference, and so we have some strikeouts and some additional text here. And just notably, sections section 2A, or where we find 264CA, that's the original meat of the bill. And so we kind of build on either side of that. So starting with section 1, which will now amend 2 VSA, section 261, titled Definitions. Particular subsection 9, the definition of lobby or lobbying. And here it did state that that term means A, to communicate orally or in writing with any legislator or administrative official for the purpose of influencing legislative or administrative action, et cetera, et cetera. We have struck through orally or in writing, and just to leave it broadly, to communicate. And then similarly, so we have 9D breaking across the page from 1 to 2. We had another reference to communicate goes only orally. That's been removed, so therefore it would just be to generally communicate in every common sense iteration of that term. So now turning to section 2, which will amend 2 VSA 264C. Again, we have the underlying bill here in subsection A. Then subsection C, curiously, we have an additional definition section that's particular only to the statutory section, where we have the terms advertisement and advertising campaign. We'll only be amending advertisement here, and it will read, see, advertisement means a notice or communication, so inserting an additional almost synonymous term there. And one notably that will kind of make more uniform, similar terminology in various sections chapter here. That is by use of the common term communicate. And what had been here before was a advertisement would be anything that appears in any of the following public media, and then it listed certain types: radio, television, newspapers, periodicals, internet websites. And it's important to know that it was limited to those. And so what this accomplishes by striking out of the following and then inserting including makes it those forms of public media will now be included, but it's not limited to. It's not exhaustive, really. And similarly, we have B, where we had some proffered other examples here, which were mass mailings, robotic phone calls, and paid internet communications. But because those weren't necessarily forms of public media, they've been granted their own kind of subcategory here, which is essentially a communication, notice of communication, which is widely disseminated to the public, including, again, so it'd be not limited to, mass mailings, robotic phone calls, and paid internet communications. So again, we have advertisement means notice of communication that appears in any public media, including radio, television, newspaper, and or other periodicals or websites, or something that is widely disseminated to the public, including mass mailings, robotic phone calls, and paid internet communications. And so it's important to remember that some new category of either public media or some item that is widely disseminated can occur in the future, and it may very well fall under as amended definition. Any questions?
Any questions from the committee? Yeah. So some of this was a result of previous testimony from the next witness we're going to hear from. They brought some suggestions in, so that's kind of where the refinement came from. There was another component that was a brief discussion with House Judiciary, but it didn't wind up really evolving into this piece. So this is sort of the streamlined component of the amended language. And God, I'm hitting section right now. We sent a draft of this to the Secretary of State's office, to the elections director. And we are either going to hear directly from him by tomorrow in person or written testimony. So with that, I want to shift over, unless we have anything for Mr. Devlin.
Yes, of course.
Cool. We're going to shift over to Mr. Walsh. Excuse me.
You again, for the record, Ben Edgerly Walsh with the Vermont Public Interest Research Group. Appreciate you hearing from us a second time and taking into consideration our recommendations. Also just note, we have been working closely with Vermont Conservation Voters, Vermont Natural Resources Council. Lauren Hurl of Vermont Natural Resources Council is out of town right now, and so wasn't able to be here today. Generally speaking, these amendments look great. I'll say, I mean, obviously the edits at the top, orally or in writing, and orally being struck, just to make a communication broadly, is obviously what we were requesting, to be all inclusive, and to make sure that it's capturing communication that we might not be thinking about, like 10 years ago we weren't necessarily thinking about video messages. Mm-hmm. The second piece here, the definitions. I will admit that when we put together our proposed edits, including things like mass mailings in in a sentence that it started with the phrase public media, felt a little bit clunky. So I actually really like this construct, because obviously things that are widely disseminated to the public can fall under the category of advertising, right? Like you get mailers all the time asking you to buy stuff. And that, I think, would reasonably be considered an advertisement. And this much more artfully deals with that. I also think the addition of including makes all the sense in the world. The one thing that I would raise, and I think this is what the chair may have been alluding to a minute ago, is the proposal that we had brought, adding, and this language is not actually in this draft of the bill. It sort of skips over to VSA 264C B. It just goes from it's A to C. But that is the reporting that's required as part of this. If you're doing an advertisement that is $1,000 or over. And basically the point that we made there before, and I won't belabor it because you were all here when I made the point, is that the phrase right now in law is that it needs to include a brief description. And oftentimes the brief description that is included is so vague as to not really allow someone looking at the report to have any idea what is actually being advertised, or who is being advertised to, or what it's on, or what the position of the advertisement or lobbying firm putting it out there is. Our intent with the language that we brought forward, which I can re-review if that's helpful, was to provide just a little bit more color. We had the idea of including bills or issues it's focused on, and then just whether the advertisement or advertising campaign expresses support, opposition, or neutrality on the bills or issues. All that could be done in one sentence. Our hope was that could be done with essentially no edits to the reporting system the Secretary of State's office uses, other than maybe a brief edit to the description in the form. I'd also add just two other things. And then that's all I have to say about this. One, in looking at lobbying reporting on advertising in other states, there were, I think it was, I reviewed Massachusetts, California, and I would say Washington State, far more onerous, detailed descriptions and information required in other places. And so our feeling was, and I am not an attorney, but our feeling was, if there was a concern about forced speech under the First Amendment, that likely would not be triggered by this because of the, precedent of many other places doing something much more stringent than this. Yeah, and then, the second point is just what I said, that we're trying to make this something that doesn't cost any money for the Secretary of State's office. So I really appreciate you taking into account our feedback on this, and think the bill is better for these edits that we've made to it, with or without that addition that I just mentioned.
Any questions for them? All right, thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
Let's see, I'm still this hard copy, it's copy of not works out with anymore. So yes, we do have this up tomorrow morning at 11 for another discussion, possible vote, and then have the feedback from the elections director by then. So if any folks have any other questions in and around this one, there is that birth of time till tomorrow morning. And anything else right now? We'll take a break. Are we coming back at 3:00?
Yes, when would you like to talk about the technical rescue micro grant program?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I just want to complete my list before I forget it.
That was for inclusion in the bigger bill?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, yeah, we left that one open-ended, or open for thought for a little while. Did folks have time to
I read,
think through that one?
I read up on that again.
Okay. Okay. Go. I'll do a quick straw poll on that one for inclusion. All right, I'm seeing what appears to be a plurality of thumbs.
Yeah.
Rep Morgan, Rep Hooper of Burlington. Yep, technical assistance. Okay, wonderful. All right, folks, let's take 10 until 3 when we'll come back. And I think we are trying to line up some conversation for 519. Thank you very much. We are doing a lot of work.
Yeah, we
the last
are.
couple of days, so good job, team. Nick, take us off.